Hello everyone, today I'll be presenting my tableau storybook on preparing for the upcoming influenza season. To begin with, I'd like to provide an overview of the project, covering the motivation, objective, and scope. The area chart on the right side clearly shows the proportion of the yearly influenza deaths come from vulnerable and non-vulnerable groups. It also shows the ups and downs in the total number of influenza deaths each year. It's clear that the number of deaths during influenza seasons over the years has not been well controlled, which is the motivation behind this project. Our goal is to make sure enough medical staffs and resources are available to prepare for the next flu season in the US. We want to figure out the best timing and number of staff to send to each state. The scope of our analysis includes all hospitals in each of the 50 states in the US. On the second slide, we present a comparative analysis between vulnerable and non-vulnerable groups. The bar chart shows a clear pattern. As people get older, the number of influenza deaths goes up, especially for those over 65. The pie chart also confirms that older people are at higher risk of serious outcomes from influenza. This data highlights the need for a healthcare system to prioritize the allocation of medical resources in areas with a high concentration of older and vulnerable populations. Moving on to our third page, we analyze the geographical distributions of influenza deaths across the US states, focusing on the correlationship between the population over 65 and influenza deaths. The map visualization uses 5 shades of brown color to represent the total influenza deaths by state, with darker shade indicating more influenza deaths. Gray circles of different size overlay the map to show the vulnerable populations by state. Bigger points represent larger vulnerable populations. By selecting different years to observe the changes in the combo map, we can see that from 2009 to 2070, the states with the larger populations over 65 closely align with the rankings for total influenza deaths. The patterns show that states with larger elderly populations tend to have more influenza deaths. This insight is also important to deciding where to send resources and how to create targeted strategies for areas most affected. Next, we delve into a scatter plot analysis that explores the relationship between the population over 65 total influenza deaths and the total population by US region group. This scientific analysis helps us to understand the strength of correlation and patterns between these variables. By examining the bubble chart, we could conclude that most of the data points are tightly clustered around the trend line, indicating a strong positive correlation between the people over 65 and the total number of influenza deaths. However, states with higher vulnerable populations becomes less clustered around the trend line. On this slide, we use a line graph to highlight the seasonality of influenza. Analyzing historical influenza deaths data allows us to understand the timing and and peaks of influenza outbreaks. We can clearly see the influenza deaths of all the region groups show a clear peak during the winter months, especially January through March. Recognizing these season patterns is vital for predicting upcoming influenza trends and preparing medical resources before winter months. Finally, we conclude our analysis with recommendations. Our findings suggest that a targeted approach focusing on high risk populations is and areas is essential. Our suggestions include boosting vaccination efforts, placing resources where they are needed most, and setting up real time monitoring and support in different areas. These steps are crucial for effectively managing the upcoming flu season. Thank you for your attention. This storybook serves as a guide for making data driven decisions to prepare for the upcoming influenza season in the US.